everybody. I wish you could see me smile. I have a big bright smile on here under my Darth Vader mask. If you had me on Tuesday, I wore my adult state mask, but it's too big for me, and I constantly kept having to pick at it. So back to my Darth Vader mask, not Max. Anyway, so we're all in the right spot, sex trafficking. All right, so I'm going to take attendance. I know I've got some new faces in here. I love meeting new people. For you new folks, I call you my kids. Everybody in my classes are my kids, because y'all are the only kids I will ever have. Maybe one day let's have foster children, which I have thought about. All right, let's see here. Today is the 12th, right? All right, is Allie here? Okay. And Adina. Okay, it's going to take me a minute because you've all got your mask on, so I want to see. And also, by the way, are you all comfortable where you're sitting? Because if you've already looked at the syllabus, I'm going to have you, I don't normally do this, but for this semester, I'll have you sit in the same spot every time. The reason why is contact tracing. That way, if you're exposed or come back positive, that the entire class probably doesn't have to quarantine, but maybe you, and maybe even us. It just depends. So everybody good in their seat? You're welcome to move. Everybody's good. Okay. And Adina's here, and Corey, Diana. There you are. Okay. Again, I can only see your eyes. So let's see. And is it Leah?
Layla.
Leah? It's Layla.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you go by Layla?
Mm-hmm.
All right, fantastic. Tiara? All right, I've met you once before, right? Good to have you in class. Cam is here. Taylor? All right, yes, so you've had me on my online class, right? Okay. And I don't see Katie. April, right in front of me. Dana, I saw you. Welcome. Let's see, Brendan, is that going to be you? I don't recognize you. It has to be you. And Jennifer's over here. And let's see. Okay. All right. That's done. So, I guess we'll cover a few things over the syllabus, and I've got all kinds of fun announcements to make. And then we're going to move on to class. All right. Just FYI. As this is a night class, we do take a break about halfway through. So this is not a straight through thing. You get 10 minutes. All right. It's not always going to be the exact time, but about the midway point, I'll give you a 10-minute break. Okay. So everybody's in the right spot. We are in special topics class, sex trafficking. First things first, y'all. This class is emotionally brutal. I want to warn you about that right now. And by the way, can everybody hear me okay in the back? Okay. I got to make sure I speak not only loud enough for you, but also for the camera. Even though our class is not split, I'm still recording the class for those that may need to be in quarantine, that may get ill, yada, yada. Okay? It is zoomed in, so it pretty much, I think, can only see like the back of, I think, the front row's head. So, all right. So I've taught this class a couple times before. You have got to do your best to mentally prepare yourself for the emotional ride that this is going to be. The only thing that I think that makes this easier emotionally is that it's spread out over 16 weeks. I taught sex trafficking a couple years ago in the summer in 4 weeks. That was brutal because it was nonstop. So you two guys had labor and organ trafficking this summer for 4 weeks. 3 hours a day, 4 days a week for 4 weeks, and it never ended. It was hard. It was brutal. So the good news for you guys is I can tell you it's probably a little less brutal being spread out, but whew, I mean, we are talking about things that nobody wants to talk about. Children being raped, people being forced into sex slavery, just horrid topics. And with that said, after I go over some of the basics of the syllabus, I will be covering a topic called self-care, because I promise you, you will need it. Not just for this class, but they're great tools to have for your own personal life, for when you start your career. But I tell you what, you will need it for this class, and I think, who else is in here is in victimology? I know Corey is, and you're on Thursday's class, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll definitely need it for that class too, especially for the last 2/3, okay? All right, so to the syllabus, for my new people, we'll go over some of just the basic things to get them out of the way. Email's the best way to contact me. Email protocol, I don't know which page it's on. But for those that have had me before, how do you address me in your emails? What's required? Doc or professor. It's not Ms., it's not Mrs. I'm not married to my father. So please use my title. Don't use hey, I'm not hey. All right? Yes, sir.
Can we say mom?
That was kind of funny because some people do think of me as mom, but I'm going to say no. How about after you graduate, call mom? Sound good? For now, it'll be, Dr. or Professor Johnson. And speaking of, so you know who I am, it is lovely to see all of your beautiful, almost full faces. And it's lovely to meet those of you that I have not had in class before or even in a face-to-face class. So that's my email protocol. There's a few things that irk me. So there's do the email. I don't tolerate lateness. You will be on time. There are your rare exceptions. Y'all ever have days you just can't get your shit together? Okay, right, and that's perfectly fine. I give you at least one free pass. If there's a day that you're, running 5 or 10 minutes late, please come to class. Just sneak on in. But the problem is when it's consistent. If it's a consistent thing, that's a problem. Okay? I understand every once in a while things just don't go our way. The other thing that you all know, with the exception of right now, is absolutely no cell phones out. Right now is different because we're doing the syllabus. But when it comes time to put everything away, I don't even want to, you're fine right now, but I don't want to even see cell phones on the table, because it's, if you get like a message pop up, it's tempting, isn't it? Oh, Lord, read that. Okay, and my cell phone policy is very strict for a reason. 1, I consider it rude and disrespectful, and 2, you're going to be on your phone, why are you even here? And 3, perhaps even most importantly, is that it's distracting to the people around you, that bright screen. And that's the same thing too, why I don't allow laptops other than whenever, right now we're doing the syllabus, or when I need you to read something. Because I'm not going to be printing or passing anything out, simply to reduce contact for your safety and mine. I can't gauge who's paranoid and who's not, okay? So I'm not printing anything. Let's see, so. My other thing, it's not in the syllabus, but please do not pack up early. I can't stand that. It irks me. I'll let you know when it's time to go. The only exception is if I'm, y'all know me, if you've had me before, I get on a roll sometimes and I forget to pay attention. Raise your hand and tell me to stop. And we'll wrap up class. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think am I missing any other rules? Oh, late work. I don't take late work, however, in your syllabus, when you read it, I understand we are in different times right now. If you are ever struggling, okay, all you have to do is ask for help. The worst thing that I can do is say no, okay? And also, please follow the COVID stuff. I don't know how many of you have actually already pulled up this. I posted it yesterday evening, so I don't know how many of you looked at it. If you look at the blog on page 1, I have my personal disclaimer. If you've had me before, you know that I have allergies, and I have a runny nose a lot of the time, and sometimes I cough. So please don't be alarmed, and I do take my temperature daily for that reason, especially now with COVID-19. So just FYI, don't be alarmed, and I I do pay very close attention to what's going on with me. The last thing I want to do is infect anybody, all right? All right. Back to the late work. Also, so if you do become ill, whether it's with COVID-19 or anything else where you are completely just out of business for a while, don't worry about attendance. You may not necessarily worry about deadlines. I will work with you if you get ill. Okay, everybody understand? Great. Okay, but as a rule of thumb, always stick to your deadlines unless you're in, if you're struggling or you're in desperate need, or if you're ill. We'll go from there. All right. If any other rules come up, I'll get back to those. So, textbook, absolutely required in this course. Some classes you can get away without the textbook, but this one you cannot. One reason is because you have chapter notes assignment. So y'all know what that's like, okay? Same thing in this course. A lot of valuable information in here. We'll talk about what's required of chapter notes in just a little bit, but I will tell you that if, how many of you have already got the book? A few of you? The rest of you? If you're struggling with money or anything, the first 2 chapters can be found free online through Google Books. So that might be a saving grace for those that are waiting for you to order it if money's an issue, or if you're waiting on it to simply be delivered. So you at least have a little bit of grace period for reading those 2 chapters online. Okay. The other book that's required is this one. This one is going to be for your book analysis/reflection. It's a tough emotional read. If you can handle it, it's a read. If you have a whole day to yourself, it's one of those things you can sit down and get done with it. But I'm warning you, this is a rough read because you're talking about children being rented out for sex, which I don't even like that. They're being raped. Period. All right. You'll notice that the second part of the title is the story of America's prostituted children. This is a great time for me to go ahead and give you your first lesson in sex trafficking. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. No such thing. Instead, what you would call them are prostituted children. Because no child wakes up one day at age 12, 13 and says, oh gee, I think I want to go have sex for money. No, but no child does that. So when we say child prostitute, language matters. When we say child prostitute, what that is insinuating is that child chose to prostitute themselves out. That's not what happens. Children are prostituted out by other people, whether it be a pimp. Honestly, to be quite honest, I don't even like the title of this course. I'd rather call it sex slavery, because trafficking waters down what's actually happening. However, that might be a title that might scare some people away. Trafficking is like a hot button word right now, okay? But that's what it is. It's slavery, period. So I prefer the term a pimp or an enslaver. Call them what they are. I don't like watered down language. So when we say prostituted children, it means a pimp is prostituting them out, or the child is having to prostitute themselves out for survival because, oh, I don't know, maybe mom and dad have kicked them out to the street and they have no other means of at age 13, can you get a legitimate job? No, you sure can't. Here's your other thing. Number 2, for a child that is on the street, they are at risk, an extremely high risk of being picked up within the first 72 hours. Okay? That's incredibly frightening. All right? It could also be, so the children, let's say that the children that I just talked about that were kicked out by mom and dad, the language there, they're called throwaways. Throwaways, that might sound familiar to some of you. It's a horrible word. That's what the parents are doing there, throwing their children out on the streets. We talk a lot about marginalized groups in this course. One of those groups being the LGBTQ community. And so if parents maybe find out that their child is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, whatever, what have you, we'll kick them out. That I will never understand. It's my job to understand human behavior. That part, I'm sorry, if your religion calls for you to discriminate against a group of people, you're doing it wrong. That's about the only thing I'll ever say about religion in the classroom. So, if that offends you, well, that's the only time I'm ever going to say too bad. Because how could you throw a child out onto the street? Okay? The other type, oftentimes we see runaways. You tell me, why would a child run away from their house? Is it just because for fun, or what's going on? Okay, could be scrutiny from the parents. Abuse. A lot of times it's abuse in the home. Okay? 80 to 90% of your sex trafficked children have already had past child sexual abuse in their history, whether from a parent, whether from aunts or uncles, grandparents, cousins, sibling, another extended family member. When a child comes forward and tells you that they have been raped or sexually assaulted, you need to believe them. You would be amazed at how many people do not believe children. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Okay? So a lot of times abuse is happening in the home, and the child is trying to get away. And the irony and the sad thing about that is, when that child does that, they're also putting themselves at risk for further abuse. Like I said, within that 72-hour period, likely to be swiped up by a pimp. Thank you very much. An enslaver, a sex enslaver. I went to a seminar on sex trafficking 5 years ago. And it was, I remember his first name was Mark, but he works for Wellspring Living. Wellspring Living is, there are two locations in Atlanta that work to restore victims of sex trafficking. Okay, I forget the age range or whatever, but the whole point is he gave a couple of case stories in video format. And this is something that people believe does not happen in the United States. People don't believe that sex trafficking, sex slavery, sex whatever happens in the United States. That's something that happens in third world countries. That happens in China. That happens in Thailand. It doesn't happen here. Yes, it does. Not only does it happen in the United States, Atlanta is ranked one of the worst cities in the world for sex trafficking, sex slavery. I believe it's ranked, is it 14th? 14th? Yeah, horrible. That's, what, 80 minutes down the road with no traffic? 80 miles? So, okay, well, then maybe it just happens in your big cities, Atlanta, New York City. No. Where else does it happen? Anywhere and everywhere. Does it happen in Dalton? Calhoun? Lafayette? Wherever you can think, it happens. The director of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as you'll hear him in a documentary in this semester, will tell you, the only way to not see sex slavery is to not look for it. So going back to the guy that gave that seminar, gave an example of a young lady, a teenager, who was from Calhoun and ran away from her abusive household. she made her, I forget how she made her way down to Atlanta. I think she caught a bus. Some sort of whatever, made it to Atlanta, pops up at the MARTA bus station. Okay, where do you think sex enslavers lurk and wait for people?
Transfer spots.
Sorry?
Transfer spots.
Transportation spots, so not just bus stations, airports, gas stations, especially like your main truckers, or truck stops, I should say. So we'll talk a lot about that this semester, but for right now, let's stick to the story. She calls up at the MARTA bus station, okay? Well, here's another thing you're going to learn about traffickers, pimps, sex enslavers. A lot of times we tend to automatically think they're all men. That is a myth. Women can also be traffickers. Women are also traffickers. And here's what happens sometimes. Not all the time. So sometimes the male, the pimp who is in charge, who has already enslaved a number of girls who are working for him, who are being raped for his profit, will have, I believe, let me make doubly sure that I've got the word right. I apologize, I'm having a slight brain fart. Y'all ever have those?
Well, Dr. Johnson,
Yes,
I
sir.
was going to say in relation to sex trafficking with children, did you hear about this new movement that's recently come under lights, this movement called pedosexuality?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I think you told me about that over the summer. Is that right?
Maybe, I don't remember,
I
but
think you
it's
did.
basically this group of people with like NAMBLA that want to
Yes.
pedophilia, and they say it's the same thing as like
No.
being a straight or gay or
Yeah.
For the entering the LGBTQ, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah, they've literally been bashed by both sides.
Yeah, and good.
Good.
I'm pretty sure that you did tell me about that in class. What in the world? Oh, here it is. Yes, I knew it was called this. Okay, I just want to double check. Okay, bottom bitch. Okay, Renting Lacey in the very beginning, there's a glossary of terms to get you to understand what the language that's used. And you'll hear it also called the life. That's what it's referred to by pimps, people who are enslaved into sex. To be clear, there are multiple types of trafficking. You've got labor trafficking, you've got organ trafficking. But our focus in here is on sex slavery. But the bottom bitch is one girl among several controlled by a single pimp, appointed by him to supervise the others, report rule violations, and sometimes even help inflict punishment on them. Sometimes, it's not mentioned right here, but sometimes they're also used to recruit others or be like kind of a decoy. So let me explain back to that example. Young girl takes a bus and pops up at the MARTA station. There is a sex enslaver pimp lurking. Do you think he approaches her? No. He sends his bottom bitch. Or any other of his girls. So that's exactly what he did. Another young girl. Think about if you have just run away, you have no money, no food, you have nowhere to sleep, and so another young girl approaches you and says, hey, me and my friends over here, we noticed you weren't really with anybody, we kind of worried about you. Hey, we're about to go get something to eat at McDonald's, and hey, after that, we're going to go hang out at our friend's house. You're welcome to crash there. That kind of conversation ensued. And I'm giving a paraphrase version, all right? And that's what happens. She trusted that young girl because is that young girl threatening to her? Not in the least. And that's how she got swept up into, quote, the life. Luckily, she was able to get out. I don't remember how she got out, but she's went through the Wellspring Living program, and she had given her story that he showed via video in the seminar. Y'all, that little girl's from Calhoun, right down the road. Okay? Another interesting, sad, disgusting fact. Does anybody know the lifespan of someone who has been sex trafficked as a child? About 7 years. And when I say the life, or the shelf life, when I say 7 years, it means that within 7 years, a couple things are likely to have happened to them. One, they're going to be dead for a couple of reasons. Can anybody guess?
Suicide.
Excellent. Okay, somebody said suicide. Okay, that reason number one, suicide. Can't deal with it anymore. I heard someone who said murder. You did? You said suicide and murder? Okay. Murder, because you know what? Pimp has no more use for you. You'll notice in sex trafficking, the younger the better. And it's not just girls, y'all. Boys get trafficked too. One set of your guest speakers coming on September 2nd are from End Slavery, Georgia, located in Rome. They will tell you that one of the highest in demand right now are 6-year-old, blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys. Y'all, you can't make this stuff up. So I want you to get that out of your head that it's just girls. Boys are enslaved for sex too. Bear with me. Infants are even bought and sold for this. I'm telling you now so that you know why I'm telling you to be mentally prepared for this course and why I'm going to teach you self-care in a moment. Well, maybe on an hour. Okay? So suicide, murder because the pimp has no more use out of you. They want you young. And where does that come from? Is that because of the pimp, or where is that coming from?
The buyers.
There you go. Who said that?
Me. Corey.
Who's me?
Corey.
Corey. Thank you, Corey. When I take a drink, I try to turn away. It's not ideal, but the buyers. Y'all, this is simple economics 101. Supply and demand. If there were no demand, there would be no need for supply. What does that tell you about our society throughout the world?
We suck.
We do suck. And I wonder sometimes if that's why we're in a pandemic. Because we really suck. Like, are we like the dinosaurs? Are we about up? Are we time up? Is it time's up? It's not really funny, but, I mean, come on, people. However, when you read a history book, you know that things sucked worse, I think, in the past. So, anyway, it's the buyers. You'll learn all about different characteristics of buyers, aka rapists. Buyers is a watered down term. They're rapists. Okay? Let's see here. So, that goes back to the pimp having no more use. Once you reach a certain age, I ain't got no more use for you. Okay? All right? Well, all these things we're talking about, we'll go much more in depth, but for right now, what do you think is one of the #1 ways a pimp controls his quote-unquote supply?
Drugs.
There you go, drugs. So, 7-year shelf life. They may die of overdose. Okay? Given that they're being raped by multiple people, usually men, they could also die of
Alcohol. Alcohol.
well, perhaps, maybe with alcoholism, but did you say disease?
Yeah.
Disease. Yeah, could be disease. So you got suicide, murder, drug overdose, or disease. One could even go so far as to say that all of those are forms of murder because of the situation that they are in. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so there's your kind of like very brief introduction to this disgusting world. All right, back to the syllabus. We do watch a lot of documentaries, because you know what? I can talk to you all day long about sex slavery. It almost means nothing unless I show you stories. And stories that are right here. On your schedule, you'll notice on October 7th, you have a guest speaker coming who is a survivor of child sex trafficking. I know Corey, was anybody I know you visited, but was anybody in family violence this past spring? No? Okay. Well, through some connections, I met this young lady. So another thing that people think about trafficking is that trafficking requires movement. Scratch that now, okay? Here's what you would write down. Trafficking does not require movement, transportation. Okay? A lot of people think that trafficking means borders have to be crossed, countries have to be crossed. You can be trafficked within your own home. You can be trafficked within your own home, and that's what happened to this young lady. Her own father, not only did he rape her for years, but he recorded it and posted it all over the internet. It's still out there. She is going to come and talk to you on October 7th. For the very reason that I just told you, I will not be recording her when she visits. So that's the downfall of that, is if you are sick or in quarantine, you will miss out. I'm sorry, but there's no way I would, what that would do is re-victimize her. Does that make sense? I will not record her. Okay. So we watch a lot of documentaries in here. You've got guest speakers. And so you see that on the syllabus. Most of you probably already have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. And if you don't, you can look on the schedule and see what's required when, and you can get free trials and such. I tried to my best ability to make everything free to you. The last thing I want to do is put another financial burden on you, okay? But do be aware of that, okay? Next page. I've already given you a pretty hardcore intro to this topic. However, when you look at page 2, you'll see a quote there by Kevin Bales. And I talked about this one in my labor and organ trafficking class this summer. It says, slavery is what slavery's always been, about one person controlling another person, using violence and then exploiting them economically, paying them nothing. That's what slavery's about. Y'all, there are more people enslaved today than there ever have been in history. There are more people enslaved today than there ever was in the transatlantic slave trade. And that's not meant to demean or diminish that. That's a horrific chapter in our history. Right now, it's estimated that between 24 and 25 million people in the world are in some form of slavery, whether it be through labor, domestic servitude, sex slavery, whatever, what have you. Now, that's an estimate based off of research. The true number is probably a lot higher. So they estimate that it's actually closer to about 45 million. Okay? So just beware when you see numbers like that. Sometimes they will vary. Another thing, there are 3 criminal enterprises that are the top worst. somebody give me the first one? Any guesses? I'm sorry? Drug trafficking, you would be correct, ding, ding, ding. And that's another reason that sex trafficking gets misunderstood, is because when you're talking about drug trafficking, you are talking about movement across borders and such. Once we go over the formal definition of human trafficking and sex trafficking, it'll make much more sense as why movement is not required or involved. Okay? Drug trafficking, again, the estimate for that is about every year generates $280 to $420 billion. Anybody know the second one? Do you two remember? The second one?
Labor trafficking?
Not quite.
Clothing.
No.
As well.
Money laundering.
Sorry?
Money laundering?
Close. Counterfeiting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people forget about that. Counterfeiting. Okay. Counterfeiting generates about $250 billion a year. That's, again, these are estimates. They're probably honestly a lot higher because they're all illegal trades. Do you think we're ever going to know the real number? Nope. Okay. And then the last one, human trafficking. Human trafficking. And then we'll get to the subtypes. Okay? Which one do you think is more common? Labor trafficking, even without knowing the definition. Labor trafficking or sex trafficking? I say it again? Labor. Labor makes up about 78% of all forms of human trafficking. There are so many forms of labor trafficking. Debt bondage, domestic servitude, child soldiers, children enslaved in marriage. Y'all remember any of that? We covered so much. Working in the farms. Y'all ever stop thinking about where your food comes from? And a lot of people think that people working in the farms, oh, they're all illegal or they're undocumented. Let me teach you a little bit about language. I prefer the language of undocumented immigrant. It's a preference. Because when you say illegal alien, one, no human is illegal. No human is illegal. And what do you think about the term alien? What does that say about people?
There was that.
Sure, yeah, trying to say that they're less than human. Okay? It's a degrading and dehumanizing term to use. Okay? Now let me make myself clear. That's my opinion. I am very big on not pushing my opinions on you. I want how I operate my classes. I'm here to teach you how to think, not what to think, and to give you food for thought. Okay? So some of you may have never thought about how degrading the term illegal alien may be. So, undocumented. Borders are constructed. That doesn't mean that we don't need border control or anything like that. Okay? Because we have a lot of things horrible crossing our borders. Not people, but actions. Does that make sense? People that are horrible. Okay? Making bad decisions. So with that said, back to talking about people who are working in the farms. We assume that they are undocumented. Oh, well, that they're at a high risk of being trafficked into labor in the farms. And what research finds is that actually about half are here undocumented, and the other half are actually here legally on a visa. It's called an H-2A visa, which means you are allowed to come to the U.S. and work for one specific job. So let's say that you are from Honduras and you get an H-2A visa to come work on a farm in the United States. Once you get there, a lot of times what happens is they'll take your paperwork from you. Let's say maybe you don't speak English, and they say this is where you're gonna live. You're promised all of these things, okay? But that doesn't mean that's actually gonna be delivered to you. And a lot of times people get taken advantage of. And by the way, that visa, the H-2A visa, is only specific to that job. So if you're being horrifically mistreated in that job and you get another opportunity somewhere else, you are in violation of your visa and can be deported, okay? So it's not just undocumented people who are at risk of being labor trafficked. It's people who are here legally too, okay, or documented. Yes, ma'am?
That reminds me of a few days ago, the news report in Mexico. Usually there were a potato factory, I think it's in Texas, I don't remember where exactly. But a lot of people were telling reporters saying that they were basically being held hostage because the boss said they were trying to revoke their visa if they don't work hard enough and like give them higher pay, wages, and everything. It was really bad.
Yeah, will you send me that article?
I think
If you can find it, I'd appreciate it. I look at it myself, but y'all have you before you know that my short-term memory is not the best anymore. Call it PhD brain. The more you learn, the less that sticks in short-term. Long-term is fine. But yeah, there's so many threats that get involved in it. Especially think about if you went to work in another country where you don't know the laws, you don't know the language. What would you do? You're scared. Where do you go for help? So see how easy it is to take advantage of people? Yeah. Anyway, we're not here for talking about labor trafficking. I just want you to be aware that it exists. I'm probably either going to offer it, I know I'm going to offer it at least in the spring or the summer of next year. It's going to be a recurring class. So, and then the remaining is sex slavery at about 22%. And due to rounding error, Oregon is about 1%. I'm not even going to go into that, but just to kind of give you an idea. Now, just because this is a lot lower than labor doesn't mean that it is any less meaningful. That's why we're here. Think of yourself, or think of me as somebody who's, I'm planting seeds within you, seeds of knowledge, and it's your job, it is your job to spread those seeds of knowledge to other people. So that's actually one thing I'm going to ask your colonels, like I did in my summer class. In their reflection papers, they were required to talk about what they're learning to at least 2 other people and report back in their journal. Okay? So I'm going to go in and add that to the syllabus. So, because that's the thing. Why are you here if you're not going to share your knowledge? The more people that are educated, the better. Okay? So, I hate this word, but it's often referred to as, quote, the industry. So, it's estimated at $50 billion per year. Again, that's an estimate. It's probably a lot higher. Think about all the money that's being made off of people being raped. Boys, girls, adults, men, women, whoever. So, in this course, we learn about what trauma does to the brain, how it can affect reactions, trauma-informed care, what motivates people to enslave others. I mean, that's actually a quick answer right now. What motivates people to enslave others? Money. If you haven't learned already in all of your other classes or just life in general, that everything boils down to money, any form of currency that you're talking about. Now, of course, there are other motivations of why people would seek it out. But generally, the motivation is money, but we'll delve deeper into, well, some people want to make money, we all want to make money, but why do some people choose illegal options versus legal options? Let's see, a lot of different perspectives we study. All right, so let's get on to our assignments. Let's see. In this course, we have 2 exams. You have a midterm and a final. They are in the form of short answer and essay. I don't do multiple choice, at least not at this level. If you are new to my courses and would like advice on how to study or do well on my exams, I encourage you to reach out to students who have had my classes before. Okay? All exams aren't, I've been used doing online exams for years. It's not just because of the pandemic. It saves class time, it saves paper, ink, it saves your hand because if you think that's a lot of typing, imagine how much your hand would hurt. And yes, they used to be in class already. So think of it as a favor almost. 150 points each. I give you a 3-day period. I give you from Saturday to Monday, because I know some of you work a lot on Saturdays and Sundays, so I give you that Monday also to do. They are timed. So for example, if I give you a 10-question exam, I usually give you about 10 minutes per, so it'll be about 100 minutes. Okay? So it is timed, but try not to let the timer freak you out. Think about if you were in class, I'd be giving you the same amount of time in class as well. Make sense? Okay. Online, it's also meant as an integrity measure. Okay, you need to know your stuff. I will tell you that I have caught people cheating even on online exams. I'm not going to tell you how, I know that, but I have caught it before. Do not let that be you. You will be sorry. You will be reported to student conduct, and it will be on your record. And you need to think about that. One, this is a criminal justice class, so what does that say about you? Okay. Actually, what's interesting is that the #1 reported amount of cheaters we have of any major on campus is criminal justice. That's terrible. That is a horrible reputation. But with that said, think about when you graduate and you want to get a job, what do you have to have?
Integrity.
Well, yes, you would hope integrity, yes. But when you go to apply for a job, what do they want?
Transcript?
Well, there's that too. What else?
Recommendations.
Recommendations or references. Okay? So it's not just about your college record even. Okay? You need references. And you need people to give you a good reference. Or a letter of recommendation saying you want to go to graduate school. Now, of course people deserve second chances and forgiveness, grace. People make mistakes. You know, you think about why do people cheat? Some people get desperate. I get it. I'm here. My job is to learn to know about human behavior. I get it. It doesn't excuse it. That's the #1 lesson. When we try to understand human behavior, including sex traffickers, pimps, and slavers, we are not here to excuse their behavior. We are here to understand it. Because if we understand a problem and the source of the problem, we can then seek to do what? Solve. Or solve the problem, reduce the problem. Okay? So, some students over the years that we have caught cheating, it doesn't mean that they can't be redeemed. I've gone on to, once they redeemed themselves, you know, I've still been very supportive of them. So, I probably should tell you that part. However, don't even deal with that. Okay? Do not let that be you. All right, let's see here. If you do, it's rare. It generally happens maybe about once, maybe twice a semester out of all of my classes. If you do have technical difficulties with your exam, email me ASAP, Contact Georgia View, all of your contact information is listed there in the syllabus. If I were you, I'd plug Georgia View's phone number in your phone, okay? Because you'll have to have that documentation. All right, any questions over the exams? Okay, closed note, closed book. You don't have to work with anybody else. All right, on to the chapter notes, course readings. That's for your main text right here. So there are 12 chapters in this book, and we do cover all 12. Everybody has a unique way of taking notes. What I want to see in your notes is I want to see evidence that you have read the entire chapter. I don't need you to copy down the entire chapter for me. But what are the main points that stood out to you, and what do you think are the main points that you need to know? All right? Now, to pay close attention to your syllabus, to earn full credit, you are also to include discussion questions. I prefer you include them at the end. It's easier for me to see. It can be one question. It could be 10. I don't care. You just need to have at least one. You can also it doesn't have to even be a discussion question. It can be, is there a question about the chapter that's something that you didn't understand? And I will get you feedback. It's something that it helps me gauge what I need to focus more time on or teach more or whatever. You can include any kind of reflection on the chapter if you wish. That part is not required because we have our journals. Let's see here. To reduce contact, your notes will have to be typed. They will be uploaded to your designated Dropbox. So let me log back in. So you'll see this folder right here. I've already got your one for chapter 1 notes. It's due August 19th. All notes will be due 5:30 p.m. on the day that it says on the schedule. Okay, always to keep consistency, 5:30 p.m. the day of class. So that's there. I know some of you like to handwrite your notes, but here's the bonus thing. If you are a handwriting note taker, it's a bonus to have to type them. In fact, it's even better to handwrite them because there is research that suggests that when you write, you're more likely to remember. Somehow it's a connection. And then having to type it out, that's just another second thing. Okay, so completely up to you how you want to do it. But they do have to be typed and uploaded again, to reduce contact. I grade your notes based on quality, not quantity. Okay? So there is no necessarily minimal or maximum number of pages. Okay? It's about quality. And your discussion questions. All right. Any questions over that part?
I have a question about the notes, because I was meant to ask you this before.
Go ahead. Sure.
There's not an organizational way you need it to be though, right? Because I'm very much like, this is important, so I'm going to part down, move on.
Yeah. However you did your notes for labor and organ trafficking
Okay.
is
I'm
fine.
saying, they're scattered, they don't like flow, I guess, is the best way to say it.
That doesn't matter to me. As long as I see that you've covered the chapter, that's perfectly fine. So when I say quality, I can see how you might think about organization,
Yeah.
but nah. Yes, ma'am.
What if they have these shortened terms, instead of using the whole word?
Oh yeah, you can use abbreviations. However you feel comfortable using abbreviations, by all means. I'm not even grading your spelling or grammar for your notes, because your notes are your notes. Okay? It's simply for me to see that you're reading and that you're prepared. I promise you, reading the chapters helps you be prepared for class. This is not meant to be some sort of busy, stupid work. It helps you genuinely be prepared for class. I mean, guys, you had to do that. It's very helpful. You may not like it.
It's also kind of like heartbreaking because you have to read back on stuff that you don't really want to read back about too.
Correct. Yeah, so that's the way the cookie crumbles. Good questions. Any more? as they come up, just let me know. Journals. This is where I need to go in and edit. So let me pull that up. All right, so because I told you in this class that this is a very emotionally difficult class to get through, the purpose of these journals is to give you an outlet, all right? An outlet to express your emotions. It's an outlet too, so that I can see that you're understanding, you're connecting the dots with material. Journals are not summaries of class, okay? You're talking about stuff that stood out to you, cases that stood out to you, whatever. You will also, number 2, it's really important to be paying attention to current events. So just like you brought up the case of, was it the potato farm in Texas? Well, we'll focus on sex trafficking. So like right now, the big case is Jeffrey Epstein. Has anybody here watched the docuseries on Netflix? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. You said what?
Oh, not yet.
Not yet. And, well, your chance is here because I'm going to make you watch it. That's on the syllabus. How many of you have been, what are you watching around? You've been following the Jeffrey Epstein case?
I don't watch notes.
Okay.
Like, I think there was like that one thing in Twitter for Anonymous sending out like some other people who were part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like his personal
Elaine
assistant.
Maxwell, his confidant, was arrested this summer.
Mhm.
It's great news. Let's hope, I honestly hope that she makes it out alive because I hope that she blasts every single person in that disgusting ring. Every last one. It'll suck if she gets a deal from it, but how many more people can we take down? I don't know, we can take wagers on you think if she's gone. How many of you think Jeffrey Epstein hung himself? Anybody? You think he actually killed himself? I'm not picking on you.
No, I know, I'm just like.
I'm always curious what people think. Did he really hang himself? Or was it a conspiracy and then he was actually killed? Like, I don't know.
Somebody
I
covered
don't know.
me.
So weird.
Yeah, I mean, those some very unusual circumstances. I mean, people do hang themselves in prison. I get
got
that.
20 that he hung himself. So we're placing bets.
Oh! Well, I wish I knew the mystery because I could make $20. You know, I don't really, I'm not a fan of speaking ill of the dead, but fuck that guy. You know, and if you don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is, you will certainly know him again soon enough. You know, what is the reason people believe that he did not hang himself, that somebody else did it?
So everybody was involved in it.
So they weren't going to be exposed. That's the theory or conspiracy behind it. We'll never know. People are entitled to their opinions. But anyway, the docuseries is on Netflix. There's 4 episodes, about an hour long. Now, I love watching true crime. That's my pastime. That's one of my favorite things to do. I can watch a lot of things. I can take a lot of things, but watching that first episode was very difficult for me. To the point where I had to pause it and stop. Probably about halfway through the first episode. And then I came back to it. One thing that I did actually over the summer, and I think you two in class, you knew about this, they had a thing where you could register for being part of the discussion with people who made the docuseries and a judge who's on the board of, forgetting the name of people involved in making the documentary, and experts in the field of trafficking. It was really neat to hear. I don't know if they're going to be doing that again. I'll try to see, and if they will, I'll forward you. Oh, it was hosted by ECPAC. How could I forget that? ECPAC is In-Child Prostitution, In-Child Prostitution and trafficking, yes. They have locations around the world. We have ECPAT USA, which I've got all kinds of links for you on Georgia View. So websites, these are some of your best websites for information on mostly sex trafficking, but labor trafficking too, and the Global Slavery Index. There's your End Slavery Georgia website that's where our speakers are coming from. And the Polaris Project is your #1. Especially if you want to teach other people, Polaris Project is a great link, a great place to start. I'll get to the Blue campaign in just a little bit. There's a whole long list here as well that students collected over the summer. Let's see here, where was I going with my conversation? What was I talking about before?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so here's ECPAT USA. They were the ones hosting this live webinar. So you would watch, there would be a board member from ECPAT USA. There was the person who made the docuseries, and I think an expert who works for ECPAT USA. I don't know why it's not loading. There it goes. I will also take the time to tell you that ECPAT is actually how I learned about human trafficking in the first place. But it was not ECPAT USA, it was ECPAT UK, because I've taught for a number of study abroad programs. The first time I ever taught overseas was in London in 2010. And part of our program is I taught the sociology class, British Culture and Society, but we would have a lot of joint sessions. So they also had a comparative criminal justice course, and we all got to go see guest speakers who were from ECPAT UK, and that's how I was first exposed to learning about human trafficking. And I tell you what, it was incredibly powerful. But anyway, so I will see if they're going to be doing any more, and you could actually type in questions if you so chose to do. Whatever. All right. So, paying attention to current events, what's happening in the news. Doesn't have to be Jeffrey Epstein. It could be things that are updates related to that. But any kind of current event that's going on that's related to the material at hand. Okay? Now, it's possible, not near as likely as in victimology, but who knows? I don't know your background, and I don't know who you know. There might be some of you who maybe yourself have been trafficked, and I just don't know it. You're welcome to talk about personal experiences or somebody that you know that's been trafficked. Again, I've not had a student yet, which is good. At least that's disclosed it. Okay? But should you have experience with that, you're welcome to talk about it. And here's the thing about your journals. I don't share anything you write with anybody else unless I have your explicit written permission. Like, for example, let's say you give a personal example. So, for example, this summer, I had a number of students who actually had stories of people they knew being labor trafficked. So, if I wanted to share those stories with the class, I would ask that person for permission. And I would leave it anonymous. Most people say yes, and then I would give it. But unless I have your permission, I don't share with my boyfriend, I don't share with my friends, family, colleagues, nothing. So that's why I call them safe places, safe spaces, whatever you want to call it. Exceptions, if you report any suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts, or if you suspect a child is being abused in any manner, I have to report those by law. Now the other thing that I'm going to add that I forgot to, that's my fault, is what I just talked about earlier. let me find what my labor trafficking one said. Let's see. What did it say about? Ah, here it is. There you go. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. But you will also include any conversation you have had with others about what you are learning in class. Let's see. Let's see. It's not necessarily, including a recap of the conversation that you had, but more along the lines of how did that person react? Were they open-minded, judgmental, in denial? I know that over the summer, some people came across, they would talk to some of their coworkers about what they were learning about labor trafficking. And some people would respond, well, I don't really care about that, it doesn't affect me. Some people are like that. It's saddening and maddening, but most people actually were received the information quite well. Do they show more interest? You don't have to tell me their name, but, was it your mom, aunt, friend, whatever. So let me just copy and paste, and I'll post this, I'll upload it to Georgia View. Get the corrected version. All right. Then you've got your formatting guidelines. Reflection papers need to be a minimum of 2 pages. There's only 6 throughout the semester, which is a lot less than what y'all had to do this summer. Okay. All right. Also, I want you to give it a unique title. Don't just say Journal 1. Give it some people, y'all are really creative. I've got some really creative titles. Any questions over the expectations of journals? Okay. The biggest thing is it's an outlet for you, because I promise this class is going to make you angry, sick, frustrated. If the stuff that I already told you at the beginning of class didn't make you angry and sick, I mean, as questions arise, you feel free to ask.
I have some experience, you can put passwords in journals.
Yeah, try to keep profanity to a minimum. But I mean, if you want to, by all means.
There's no such thing as too
So
frank.
you can't help it sometimes.
Sometimes, you're right. I had one guy over the summer that used the F-bomb a lot, but if it made him feel better, then good. That's what I want. I want you to have a release.
I put
Some
my
people-
back in there a few times.
Some people, person makes them feel better. I don't care. Journals are academic, but this, y'all, we're talking about a topic that, whew. So, again, try to keep it to a minimum, but if you so feel the need, go ahead. The journal is to be like in a diary format. You can say dear diary, you don't have to, it's whatever, all right?
They reflect on the book or the classic journal or both?
I'm sorry, what?
The journal entries, are they reflecting for the class, what we learned? Or-
Yes, the journal entries are based on class, documentaries, and such. We do watch documentaries in class. Some are required for you to watch outside of class. If I require an outside documentary, I usually simply have you take notes, and it counts as a participation assignment, which we'll talk about in a minute. But there's a separate assignment for the reflection on the book. Yeah. All right, so if there are no questions for the journals right now, we'll move on. So, which is the book analysis / reflection. The assignment is posted for you on Georgia View. So it's right here. And if you want to pull it up and follow along, take a look. If you've had me in other classes where you've done book analysis, this is a little bit different, okay? It's a little bit different. It's reflecting on each chapter in the book. This is true stuff. Please understand that. Now, so you've got your, your first paragraph. So rather than answering specific questions like I do in my other book analyses, you're to write a reflection over each chapter while connecting it to course material learned this semester. So it's up to you which dots you would like to connect. So no one paper is going to be the same. Okay. Last fall, they had the option of this or volunteering. The sad thing is I'm not allowed to give you the option to volunteer. So, in fact, last fall, most students in class chose to volunteer with In Slavery, Georgia. But I can't make you do that. I can't do that. So, book it is. And it sucks because volunteering is really important. But these questions are meant to guide you. You by no means have to answer these questions. It's simply meant to get your brain gears turning. I want you to look at the big picture. Now the analysis part is the last part, besides your conclusion, is you're looking at, is this book worthwhile reading? Is this beneficial to you? Would it be beneficial for other people to read? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses of the book? That's your analysis part. The other part's the reflection. Okay? You got your formatting, 6 to 10 pages, excluding the cover page, and you'll turn it in through a Dropbox that is connected to turnitin.com. So if you've had me in the past where you needed a code or password, it's slotty, it's just connected through Georgia. You just turn it on in. So let me go to right here. There's your drop, it's already there for you. Due date November 6th.
It's so much easier.
It is. You can thank Dr. Nava for that. She has brought me up with the times. Anyway, all right. So there's that. As you read through that, as you're reading, when you're writing, have questions, let me know. And then participation, how that works. For example, actually look on page 7, the tentative course calendar. You'll see that it tells you on, so it's August 11th. So as of now, I want you to start watching the Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich. It's on Netflix, 4 episodes. And you're going to be taking notes on the episodes as you watch them. And when I say take notes, I don't mean like every single little detail. I mean things like what really shocked you, what really stood out to you. Yes, sir?
How's that we're going to turn into?
Yes, absolutely you are. I'm still debating on, I think, yeah, I'll have you type them because that way you can bring them on your laptop and you'll turn them into me. And how that works, participate, if you turn that in, that's considered you'll get an S. It's a satisfactory. So let's, just for example's sake, let's say you have 10 participation assignments throughout the semester. That means that if you have 10 S's at the end of the semester, they're each worth 10 points. Okay? If you have an unsatisfactory, which means you didn't turn it in or you did it wrong, you would lose 10 points. Then your participation grade would be a 90. Now, there's such a thing, you can get an S/U, which means you turned it in and you did it, but you didn't do it entirely correctly. So you get half credit. So let's say you have 9 S's and 1 SU, it means your final grade would be a 95. That's just an example. I never know at the beginning of the semester how many participation assignments there's going to be. Okay. Sometimes I have you do things in class, like in the self-care portion. I might have you do an in-class thing. But that's how participation works. Now, let's see here. In terms of when to have the Jeffrey Epstein stuff finished, I think by September 2nd is reasonable. Do you think that's reasonable? Is it doable for you? Okay, because it's August 11th, so it's about, what, 3 weeks to watch for? And let's be real, I know a lot of you like to binge watch shows. This is a great way to give you an excuse to binge watch a show. Now, again, mentally prepare for it. It's going to piss you off. To me, it made me sick to my stomach the first episode did. Take breaks as you need. And I'll give you, oh, it says, I'm sorry. It says finish the series by September 9th. Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll leave it at the 9th, but if you can get it done by September 2nd, that might be in your favor, because if you have questions about it and you want to ask the guest speakers, it might be in your favor. But I'll just leave it at the 9th, okay? I'm sorry, I wasn't even paying attention. We will watch Playground in class, so no need to worry about that. You see there how the schedule is, for when your notes are due. When your first journal is not due until September 4th. Let's see here. So we do watch a lot of in-class documentaries, but see, if you look at October 7th, that's when you have your next guest speaker, but you do have an out-of-class documentary in plain sight, and you'll bring notes to class on your laptop, and I'll create Dropboxes for you to turn it in as well. And they're meant to be talking points for in class. Okay. Let's see, right now your midterm is scheduled October 17th to 19th. Let's see here. Oh, and then our last guest speaker that we have, which is super cool. I've had her speak before. Her name is Special Agent Renee Green. She works for GBI. When I was communicating with her, trying to get this lined up, so she has formerly been an agent for the Child Exploitation and Computer Crimes Unit, but when she emailed me, she said she's now part of the newly formed HEAT unit. That's what they abbreviated it to for whatever reason, but Human Trafficking and Exploitation Unit. So what that one is they focus on adult trafficking, both sex and labor, which is so cool. That didn't used to exist. And I wish I'd known, because then I could have had her talking this summer, but I didn't know. I hadn't talked to her since last fall. But anyway, and then another case, some of you might be familiar with. Have you all followed ever the Centoya Brown case? Sound familiar? She is the one who, she killed the guy she was being trafficked, and she killed one of the Johns, and she killed him in self-defense, but they told her they believed it was first-degree cold-blooded murder. She was a juvenile, and she was 16 years old, and
She released, right?
hmm?
She got released.
She got released, I want to say, of August of last year, finally. I can't remember how many years she stood behind, 16 years? A long time. I believe they tried her as an adult. I think she had gotten a life sentence or something like that. But her documentary that's just recently come out, it's called Murder to Mercy, the Centoya Brown story. I mean, if you want to watch it now, by all means, but we will get to it later this semester. It's on Netflix. There's another case, Crystal.
Those are kind of like recent.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's
That's what I'm not familiar with.
Crystal Kaiser. Yes, is another teen who, it's another teen charged with killing sexual abuser released on bond. So that's another current event maybe you all can pay attention to. But yeah, her case is very similar to Centoya Brown. Oh, goodness. So, all right. Let me just do some checking. I have zero idea if we're gonna be on campus the whole semester, if we're gonna go remote, I don't know. It could change tomorrow, it could change in 5, I don't know. But on page 11, the transitional plan. If you have me in the spring or the summer, you know how this works. But I know many of you did not have me last semester or the summer or ever before. So what we'll do, if we do close, is we'll go to online virtual synchronous, which means we will still meet from 6:10 to 8:50 through Georgia View. There's a program called Collaborate Ultra. You don't even need to do anything but click a link. I create the link, and you click it, and you are virtually in class. Now, it's not ideal, and I wouldn't even really say it sucks. It's just there's nothing the same as in class.
It's very bland at times.
Yeah, it does, and it took some getting used to, I promise. But y'all pay tuition, and you deserve better than just reading some damn PowerPoints. And I love teaching. If you
Pull
can't
some of the
tell.
other professors out.
What's that?
Should pull some of the other professors out.
Well, to be fair to some of your other professors, some of them have kids where they can't do the synchronous. They no longer have childcare either. So there's some key words to this semester. Grace being one of them. Me showing you grace, you showing me grace, you showing your other professors grace. Are there lazy professors? Yeah, but are there some who don't have the resources? What the hell? Resources, not resources. I can't speak English, I promise. Who just don't, they have other obstacles, okay? So that's how I will choose to do it. I'm hoping that we're on campus all semester, but we just don't know. I think that's pretty much it. Now, the last thing that I ask you to do is, if you haven't already done so, under the syllabus, it's not really a quiz. All you do is click on that and you are typing in your name. You are essentially, you can actually, if you feel comfortable right now doing it, go ahead and click on that. And what it is it's actually this exact same statement on the back of your syllabus. So normally you would print and sign, or you would sign and print and sign your name, but to reduce contact, you are simply going to do this on there. Okay. Stating that you understand the syllabus. At this point now, are there any questions? Do you have any questions? And even if you don't now, you can always ask me questions. I'm fairly quick at responding to your emails. I do emails during the day. Part of my self-care is maintaining boundaries. I don't check email after 5 p.m., with the exception of maybe Wednesdays because I'm in my office right before class. I don't do email on the weekends. But I'm pretty good about responding to your emails. With that said, has everybody signed their name? And if you want to look it over more and sign it, you can do so, I think, by tomorrow night. All right. Okay. With that said, it's 7:35, so take 10, and I'll see you back at 7:45-ish. Oh, all right. Oh my gosh, I totally have a sign in my house that says that. It's not a wine glass, but I have a sign.
Or just like, I saw
Yes, absolutely. That's me to a T.
I'll actually think of this.
You have to draft everything.
Oh, God. That's this new tape I learned. One of them,
All that. Oh, nice. The sticker here, like,
Oh, no.
that's very here.
yeah, that's one that my group hands out. I'm president this year.
Oh, nice.
We're actually continuing it.
Ooh, nice. I wish I could say I didn't join in, but I have so much stuff.
Or when you on Zoom, or like through Facebook, or like social media, so like even if you can't do it online, like we're trying to do like that instead. So we're trying to get that started, but because we have these cool things.
Y'all, it is just past 7:45. I have, so at this point, you can go ahead and put your phones and laptops and everything away. And now, then I've got a couple of things to announce to you before we get started on our self-care portion. Let me turn the screen back on. So, anyway, the stuff that I copied and pasted into the journal, I have already put the corrected versions on Georgia View for you, for your referral. Whenever it comes time to do your first journal, we'll kind of rehash that. My first announcement actually comes from a student who I had this summer in labor and organ trafficking. She has a friend who is partnering with, God, I can't remember the name of the organization that's raising money for, they're going to Thorn, okay? So she is selling the t-shirts for $10 to $12, I think. I actually just ordered one. And they can come and any color you wish. I asked for one for blue, and you'll see why in a little bit. Okay, I asked for one in blue, and she's gonna send me an invoice. I'll pay through PayPal, and my student will be delivering my shirt next week. Now, if you are interested in buying a shirt that's going to go to Thorn, let me know, send me an email, and I will send in your orders, and I'll give them your school email address and go forth from there, and then I can get them to you. So just, if you want one, there is no obligation. I'm just letting you know that that is an option. Let's see here. The next thing I want to talk to you is something about that's called #WearBlueDay. So some of y'all know where this is going. All right. So there's something called the Blue Campaign, which is through the Homeland Security, actually. And every January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And every January 11th, send out the Blue Campaign, or #WearBlueDay. You click on the link and I will show you a little bit about it. But we did this in a unique way in July. So obviously, I didn't teach labor and organ trafficking in January or the spring. I taught it June to July. So I thought, well, this class started June 15th. Well, we were in class July 11th. Well, we made July 11th our #WearBlueDay. So this semester, we're going to make ours on October 11th. Obvious reasons, we're not going to do it September 11th. And I don't want to wait till November. Okay? And it's great because October is, I'm wearing it, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Well, domestic violence is very much enmeshed in sex slavery. So, let me explain. Let me go to the website first and foremost, and then I'll show you some of the pictures from this summer.
What you said, October 11th?
Yes, which is a Sunday.
That's the day before my birthday.
Oh, happy super early birthday. Anyway, it is a national public awareness campaign to educate the public, law enforcement, other industry partners, to recognize the indicators of human trafficking. That's another huge part of this course, is to see the red flags. Okay, because if you can see the red flags, you might be able to save a life. Something as simple as knowing some red flags. Let's see. So you got your #WearBlueDay. Then you can click there to learn a little bit more. Let's see. You can click on how to participate. So what we're going to do is we're going to, since it's a, we could honestly, so what would it be? It would be October 7th. We could technically all do something, we could wear blue that day, we could take a group photo, and then you can also do some of your, because you don't have to take the actual photo on October 11th. So how about put it in your schedule for October 7th to wear something blue. Yes?
I think that students will invest in making masks. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that is an excellent idea, yes, like a blue mask that's got
#WearBlue.
#WearBlueDay, like maybe like end human trafficking or something. Do you know anybody that makes masks? Anybody? Not just you, but anybody? I know a few on social media, and that's enough in advance that she's back at home in Texas. She could ship them to me. So if anybody wants to draft a design, I'm up for any ideas. Ideally within maybe a couple of weeks. Is anybody like artistic or, okay, so y'all wanna, are you autistic too? Can you raise your hand?
No,
No, okay, that's fine.
I'm just the idea.
I'm not either. That is an excellent idea. I love it. I love it. If you want to, maybe, you don't have to, don't feel obligated, but if you would like to try to come up with a design for the mask, that would be great, and then I can send it to her. She can make pretty much any kind of mask you could ever think of.
I was going to say for the group photo, we can go out front of the bell tower.
Yeah, you were right. We can do that. Hopefully by October it'll still be daylight enough.
Well, we could come to campus like a little bit earlier if it works for people.
We'll work with it, okay? It's very possible that we could do that. We might even be able to get, I'll email her, Misty Watson, she's our media rep on campus. I might be able to get her, she can actually do professional photos instead of trying to find a random person to take a picture with an iPhone, like I normally do. Goodness, so, anyways, that's what we're gonna do. So, and what you do, we'll do a group photo, but I would also like you to do an individual photo and your own post. Your own post is about, one, you want to explain what Wear Blue Day is and when it actually is and why we're doing it now. And then take the time to put some bullet points of what you've learned and what could educate other people about sex trafficking, okay? So this picture, actually, let me turn the lights down just a little bit. See, this actually comes from a classmate of
I
yours.
can take a picture of this.
Corey, these are,
Yeah.
and see, when I assigned the students this over the summer, he actually got a lot of students, and friends, right?
Mhm.
Friends involved to take part, and he made this collage and posted it with his social media thing. I thought it was really cool. Some of the other ones to kind of give you an idea. This one, and your blue doesn't have to be, you don't have to go buy a fancy wardrobe, unlike what I did, okay? If anybody knows, I'm always extra, you'll see, I'll show you. I can't help it. But anyway, education, blue, sign or not, sign here, Corey, yeah, I think this one is yours, correct? Okay, so, let's see, got some others. People can be very creative, however you want to design it. I've got some more over here. I know that doesn't look like this, it's actually a dark blue, so she is wearing blue. But we even got a dog wearing a blue hat. So there's all kinds of unique ways to do this for your social media posts. So what you'll do is when you do your picture and your post on Sunday, October 11th, what you'll do is you'll screenshot it and you'll email it to me so that I see what you do. And that's a very easy participation activity, right? And then the part that I'll ask, because I have these because I asked permission, when you send me your screenshot, you will either tell me you will give me permission to share this on my social media, or you do not give me permission. It's totally up to you. Do not feel obligated. That's not part of your grade. Part of your grade comes from, did you do it? And if whether or not you want me to share it on social media, I share anyone that gave me permission, I put it on my social media. So, let's see. And then this was me, of course, I had to go all out. I had to get the blue wig. I'll probably have blue hair by October, maybe blue or purple. I haven't decided yet. And of course, I had to get a tutu and my blue heels. Y'all, I had not, was it yesterday? Yesterday was like my first day to wear heels since March 5th, and oh my gosh, did it feel good. I live in heels. Somebody said yesterday, you didn't walk around your house in heels? I said, no, that's nasty, because shoes are gross. So, there you go. I think it'll be a really cool thing to do. Now, with that said, we got all kinds of things going on in October. I just told you that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I teach, that's my area of research and teaching specialty is domestic violence. I teach family violence in the spring. We covered in victimology. I kind of sprinkled it through some of my other courses. I was on the board of directors for the Northwest Georgia Family Crisis Center for 6 years, 2 of which I served as president. Very involved, trying to get donations in, usually volunteering as part of classwork, but we can't do that right now in the pandemic. They're still looking for volunteers. If you want to do that on your own time, if you want to volunteer with any agency on your own time, you very well can. It's a great experience. It's great to put on your resume. It looks beautiful on there. So anyway, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, our color is purple. I haven't looked it up yet, but every October they have a National Wear Purple Day. Let me Google that real quick. Last year it was on the 19th, October 19th. Let's see, when is it this year? Nope, that's April. Sorry, there's so many things for every month now. Let me type in domestic. All right, for this year it's October 24th. Let's see what day of the week that is. If you want to put it in your calendar on your phone, please feel free to do that now. It's no big deal.
Saturday.
It's a Saturday, so what we'll do is on October 21st, which is a Wednesday, we will wear purple. And we will take a group photo. So that way we can post that photo on the 24th. Last year, we turned it in for the contest and our class actually won Dunkin' Donuts. And, wait, was it Dunkin'? No, sorry, Krispy Kreme. Yeah, Krispy Kreme and coffee. So it's pretty cool. So, October 24th, so October 21st, let me write that down for my own self. Okay, and again, it doesn't have to be anything outlandish. You saw the blue stuff. Purple can be the same thing. I have many purple tutus. I've had purple hair last year, so whatever you want to do. I've worn purple wigs before. I wish I wore a blue wig for the other thing. Anyway, and then whether or not you want to do your own post that Saturday, that's fine. But so speaking of October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I have something for you that I think you will be very interested in. Wednesday, October 7th is, well, we have class that night, but that afternoon is our annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, which I love that you have your shirt on today. Would you mind showing everybody? Would you mind walking up here? Let me actually turn the lights on now. Well, come on up, you're good. So this was last year's t-shirt. How many of you have heard of the Walk a Mile event? Looks like most of you, but not everybody, okay?
First last year, I was happy.
Yes, you did what?
I got first last year.
That's right, you won the contest, didn't you?
I had a black combat with high heels on and they were awesome.
Oh, you know, I'm going to show some pictures here in just a moment, so you can have a seat. But, so, it's an international event, actually. It's to raise awareness about sexual violence, domestic violence. And so you'll notice, like on the back, there is a copyright. So anybody can create a Walk a Mile event, Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, as long as they register with the site and pay the fees. But the Northwest Georgia Family Crisis Center, which serves Whitfield, Gordon, and Murray counties, we do one every October, and our Criminal Justice Club, LAE, hosts it every October. And all the money, it is a fundraiser, all the money we raise, we donate directly back to the Crisis Center. Okay? So I'll write on the board the times, and then the cost is $10. The $10, you'll get your t-shirt, and you can participate or not. I encourage participation. Now, this is all contingent on if we are still open. Now, if we close, they may hold it somewhere else, so we might still be able to participate. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I really just want to stay open, but who knows. So anyway, The walk is, I will bring you forms when they're ready. You can pre-register for it, so that way you're guaranteed your shirt size, okay? But the walk is from 12 to 1. Let's see, Wednesday, October 7th. I would encourage you to be there before noon. Anybody can register on-site too, so we'll actually be setting up around 11 o'clock. On-site registration starts at 11:30, but that you are not guaranteed a t-shirt nor a t-shirt size at that point. They order, and that's why they like pre-registration, so that you are guaranteed your t-shirt and the correct size. Okay. Around 11:45, we have men that walk in their high heels. We have a contest. Okay. Again, because what better way to gain attention than watching a bunch of men walking around in high heels? You know, it's normal to walk, to see me or any other woman wearing heels, but that gains attention. I'm going to show you some pictures in a little bit.
This whole elaborate setup going on.
Yes, and we've been doing, LAE has been hosting it since 2015. I'm also the chapter advisor of LAE, so if you'd like to join, come see me and I can get you all set up with the fees and the dues and such. That stuff also looks really good on your resume. Joining, RSOs, a registered student organization and such. Let's see here. So, I will show you some in just a second. Let's see. Right around noon, we usually have some sort of speaker. Last year was one of my favorite. He has my heart. He's a graduate of Dalton State Criminal Justice. He's now a law enforcement officer with Dalton PD. His name is Cole McDaniel, and he was our speaker, and he did a superb job. I have it on video. I won't show it to you today, but maybe another time. So we usually have a speaker around noon, and it's not long, it's a couple minutes, okay? And then we walk all around campus, and it doesn't take all that long. I don't think we actually even walk an actual real mile. We walk long enough, and in and around buildings. We'll have to see what we're allowed to do this year because of the pandemic and directions and such. We'll see what we can do. But let me show you the pictures and then I'll give you your opportunity. So let's see, let's take a look at last year. Where's last year? Okay. So, there we go. He was wearing, he was wearing my sunglasses. That's Bill Mast. Let's see, there's our guys. Let's see, there you are, Cam, with your boots.
Peace skirt.
Oh yeah, you do. I forgot about that. You got your skirt on too. You've got a little purple bow. We have pre-made signs. You can make your own signs too. I'd encourage you to. Nick actually, this is Nick. He actually won. So just a whole bunch of random. There you are, Cam. And yeah, you'll see Chloe. She's coming also with In Slavery Georgia. She interned there. She's recently graduated. So there's. Oh yeah, I forgot you were my cup holder. That's Chief Bell. Some of y'all have maybe had him in class, and former graduates who also work for DCS. So graduates now. So she's working at the jail now. Let's see, other people from the current. What?
That's all I saw.
Oh, there you are. You got your shirt on your shoulder. There you go. I just clip pictures all along the way. Graduates, that's Cole. That's you'll see him. He borrowed my tutu because I had like biker shorts under my tutu, so I let him borrow the tutu. And group photos, of course. And yeah, Will is awesome. That's Pat. She's
There I am again.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Oh, that's Chief Bell. He put on, I wore that one year, the purple. So that was funny. So that was 2019. Let's see, what other fun have we got? 2016. Just, one year they had me as the speaker, so there's that. I think because no, not the speaker, I had to introduce because I was president, something like that. Let's see, so that was 2017. I mean, I know you get the gist, but it's a lot of fun, especially when you look at all the guys. That's what our main focus is, looking at them. That's our LAE. So that's what Cole is a student. Now he's a police officer. I just love it. Oh, it's so cool watching you all become so successful. I know you can't see it, but I have a huge smile on my face. Let's see. Any other ones that I want to show? Did I already show 2016? No, I don't think I did. But, got some more over here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's athletic director. That was pretty fun watching him. Let's see. Graduates. So, yeah. You get the idea. It's a great way to raise awareness. You get the idea. So here's what I did last fall. Last year was our record number of fundraising. We almost doubled our funds, profit, whatever. You can recruit up to 25. You can recruit as many people as you want to participate, but you can recruit up to 25 people, not including yourself. And it'll be 1 point bonus for each person you get to participate. When I say participate, they don't have to actually do the walk. If they fill out the form and pay their $10, they get their t-shirt, that counts. Y'all know I don't do extra credit. If you've had before, I don't really do that. So this is a big deal. So the more people you can get. So as soon as I get the registration forms, hopefully it'll be within the next month. But you can go ahead and start telling people about it. And they can pay the $10. They can pay in cash, or they can pay in check, and the check is made out to Dalton State College because we deposit it into our agency account, and then the business department sends the check directly to the crisis center. So that's how we were able to raise so much extra money. I had one student who actually did get, I think she got 25. She waits tables, so she talked to her customers. So think about people at your job. It doesn't have to be just your family. But yeah, so of course you can recruit as many people to participate as you wish, but you can get up to 25 bonus points. Sound good? Sound like a pretty good deal to me. I usually don't tell you this early on, but it was just a fantastic, and I'll do this in all of my classes, okay? Any questions? Any questions? All right. Let's see here, what have we got? Okay, so we close out of that one. Since we brought up Jeffrey Epstein, this will be on I will post your PowerPoints in advance, so you'll have a folder on Georgia View where you'll get your PowerPoints. You can either print them out yourself, bring them to class. I use a lot of blanks. Y'all know, if you've had me, you know this, how that works. You can copy them down in your notebook. But this is on your first set of PowerPoints for next week. I haven't posted them yet. But I came across this, and this has to, I wish I had brought this up earlier when I was talking about this. So have any of you seen this floating around on social media? You have? So, media who are writing about Jeffrey Epstein case, please watch for these words. Underage woman, there is no such thing. An underage woman is a child prostitute. They cannot consent. That's another reason why there is no such thing as a child prostitute. Okay, they are rape victims, survivors. When you say sex with minors, underage women, underage men, etc., it's called rape. Everybody got it? It's rape. Children cannot consent. Now I know that different states have different ages of consent, but those ages go out the window when it comes to the definition of human trafficking and sex trafficking. It's simply under age 18, period. In all 50 states at the federal level, period. Okay? Non-consensual sex is a polite weasel wording for rape, and rapists do not deserve your politeness. Their victims deserve validation of what they have been through. They're children. And you can scratch out, if you could pretend underage men was there too. Scratch that out. They're children. Period. So I wanted to share that with you. Because a lot of that language is just, when they're writing about it regarding Jeffrey Epstein, it's terrible. Terrible writing, but the thing is, that's what happens when you've got an uneducated population. Uneducated doesn't necessarily mean you're stupid. It means you might be ignorant or uninformed. There have you. All right. So now we are going to embark on our self-care journey. I know this can be repeat for you, especially if you are in victimology or if you've had me before. But I don't care if you've seen it before. It's always a good refresher. For me too. So, you see up here, vicarious trauma. Alright, so first and foremost, let's just work with the word trauma. Trauma is simply defined as an overwhelming event. Now, I also want to tell you that these PowerPoints and your self-care assignment, it's all posted for you on your view, it's just not visible to you yet. Okay, so anything on these PowerPoints, if you don't have time to write it all down, don't worry about it. Okay, I'm meant to go through this fairly quickly, and so that you can reflect on the different images that I have included in this PowerPoint. I've even added one since victimology yesterday. So, could be a car wreck, could be through any kind of victimization, whatever what have you. But vicarious means that you were traumatized through someone else's trauma. So think about law enforcement. They aren't the ones that are traumatized, meaning they're not the ones in car wrecks or the domestic violence and such. But can you imagine what law enforcement sees on a regular basis? Or what victim advocates have to listen to on a regular basis? Or what probation officers see and hear on a regular basis? What nurses and doctors, especially in an ER, have to see? They see domestic violence survivors. They are an important population of people who have got to be educated on sex trafficking, because that's a lot of times the first point of contact for victims. So they need to know the red flags, the fake stories to listen out for. So when you see and hear things on a regular basis, you can be traumatized vicariously through that. For example, you taking this class can vicariously traumatize you. Okay? You're not the direct victim of sex trafficking, but you are vicariously traumatized by learning about the horrific world that we are about to embark upon. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So, because people in the helping professions deal with and see so much tough stuff, you have got to be able to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you think about law enforcement officers. I mean, Georgia State Patrol, they see wrecks all the time and fatalities. mangled bodies, the works. What can they easily lapse into if they don't have positive, healthy coping mechanisms?
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcoholism, depression,
Drugs.
drug abuse, whether it's legal, or, legal prescription drugs or illicit drugs,
They could lash out.
lash out, all kinds of things that are unhealthy and dangerous to a lot of people and dangerous to themselves. There is a reason why law enforcement and military and combat have higher rates of PTSD than the general population, post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll talk about compassion fatigue in just a moment, but there's your definition of vicarious trauma. And what happens to your health, whether it's talking about physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, when you have to listen to traumatic stories on a regular basis, when you have to hear about them on a regular basis, and or both, and while having to control your reaction. So, for example, as a therapist, if you were a clinical psychologist therapist and someone's telling you an outlandish story, or if you're a victim advocate, someone's telling you an outlandish story, you can't just be like, have this horrified look on your face. You have to hold your composure together, and that's difficult. It's also, you might want to cry with them, and you have to hold your composure. And that's why when you get home, you have got to have a way to let all that out. Just like when you get home from this class, you've got to have a way to, that's why I assign journals. Again, it's not busy work. It's to help you cope with the shit you are learning in this class. Because call it what it is. And if you can't tell already, I don't sugarcoat things. I kind of said this yesterday in victimology. You can coat a turd in sugar all day long. At the end of the day, a turd is still a turd, right? It's really disgusting. But it's like when you say I don't sugarcoat shit. Same thing. I do not, because what's the point? I try to keep my cursing to a minimum, but sometimes I get fired up. It just kind of pops out. So physical. What kind of physical trauma? So the idea is stress. What can stress do to your body?
It can make you overeat.
Okay, we'll go with some eating issues. We don't have to do a full-on eating disorder, but you might overeat. You might, we'll get to sleep in just a second. You might, what did I say, overeat? Or under?
Overeat.
I said overeat. You might undereat, meaning like you don't have an appetite. Different types of stress affect me differently. So work stress, I have a hard time eating. Other forms of stress, I want to just eat. It just depends. You mentioned sleep. That's an excellent one. Especially with PTSD, but you don't even have to have that diagnosis to have sleep issues from hearing trauma and seeing trauma. Maybe you are not sleeping enough. And what happens to you when you don't sleep enough if you're truly sleep deprived?
You don't focus well.
Yes, you don't focus as well. You have impaired judgment. So I don't know for those of you that have learned that driving sleep deprived is equally dangerous as driving under the influence. Did y'all know that? Okay? And that's because your judgment is impaired. You are not thinking right. You might even start hallucinating, depending on how sleep deprived you are.
And then they said like 48 hours without sleep is equal to like, being the same.
I'll have to look up the intricate details because I don't want to give you the wrong numbers. But we could look that up. But yeah, sleep deprivation is a serious issue and can seriously affect your health. And then for some people, they may react by oversleeping because when you are asleep, you don't have to acknowledge, issues. For me, I'm constantly working on my self-care because I did not care for myself for years. It was more like I took care of everybody else, and I had to learn the hard way. I hit rock bottom. No one had ever taught me about self-care. That's why, by gosh, I teach it every day I get in class. I teach the first day because I wish someone had taught me about it. That I'm worth self-care, that I'm worth taking care of myself before other people, because you can't pour from an empty cup, meaning you cannot take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. In the video you'll watch, Amy Cunningham uses the oxygen mask in an airplane example. If you've ever ridden in an airplane, they tell you during the flight attendant thing that if they lose cabin pressure, your air mask can come down, and they tell you to do what first? Put it on yourself first before helping other people. Why?
Can't help if you can't breathe.
There you go. Ding, ding, ding. Can't help other people if you can't breathe. That's especially hard for parents who are traveling with children. You get, as she discusses, you'll see. But yeah, you've got to learn how to cope in healthy ways. All right. And there's all kinds of things. You're going to come up with your own self-care techniques as part of your assignment. Let's see here. I know you mentioned depression, so you think about like, even before psychological. You might develop stomach ulcers from stress. For me, also when you are stressed out, it lowers your immune system. And when your immune system is lowered, you are more susceptible to yeah, illness, disease. Oh man, y'all, I was sick constantly for 3 years straight with just random different things. And it was awful. It was difficult to do my job. There were many days I couldn't come to work. And y'all know me, I've got to be on my damn deathbed for me not to come to work. So, it was rough. Anyway, for me, my symptoms were manifested in gross symptoms, nausea, vomiting, severe abdominal cramps, and you can figure out the rest. And it just comes on sporadically. I had so many tests and procedures done, nothing, it was good news, nothing's wrong with me. The best that they could tell me is it was stress, and they said you have to learn how to manage your stress, and you gotta cope better. And by gosh, it worked. I have had a few of those episodes since. I've had 3 within the last year, which is a lot more, way, way less compared to what it used to be. So you think, Dr. Hunt, you're just a professor. You're not really, y'all, I'm not in the field, but I am constantly immersed in teaching you god-awful information. That is vicarious trauma, and I wasn't dealing with it. So for me, setting boundaries is very helpful. That's why I have my email hours. That's why, as much as I love true crime, I only watch true crime stuff during work hours or when I feel like I can handle it. Other than that, I watch comedy, because that makes me feel better. You all have your own unique self-care techniques. I have my own too, but part of your assignment is going to be coming up with a list of self-care techniques, whether it's stuff that you practice or not, just for any examples of self-care. I've already got a list, but what I'm doing is I'm going to make a new list. I've already added more stuff, and once I finish compiling that list from all 4 of my classes, I will come give you that compiled list. Your name's not going to be attached to any of it, so don't worry about that. So looking at drowning in empathy. So on that first slide, you saw compassion fatigue. Anybody can be susceptible to compassion fatigue, but those who are more at risk are those who are empaths. Anybody want to tell me what an empath is?
The opposite of a sociopath.
You're right, they are the opposite of a psychopath, sociopath.
Someone that feels foreboding.
Yes, someone who, so empathy means to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So an empath is one who has too much empathy and soaks up all of the negative, especially negative energy around people. And it's emotionally draining, and it is exhausting. Because, and this is, helping professions draw empaths. Okay? The idea is to have a nice healthy balance, not an empath nor a psychopath. But again, anybody is susceptible to compassion fatigue. So having too much compassion, you've got to find a boundary. You've got to find that fine line. Okay. So let's see. If you don't know what a psychopath is, or sociopath is someone who has no empathy, has no conscience, generally has no emotions, no feelings. Sometimes I kind of wonder what that's like. I don't want to be that permanently. I just want to wish what it would be. I just want to see what it would be like for one day. One day I feel like I have to have a damn break. If you can't figure it out, I'm definitely an empath. But with that said, I think I'm going to start the video. It's about 12 minutes, I think. The other video you'll watch on your own. Actually, I want to say one more thing before I start the video. The second video is on emotional hygiene by Dr. Guy Winch. He's a psychologist. So, when you were growing up, you were taught about how to take care of yourself physically. So, April, if you got a boo-boo on your knee, what were you taught to do about it?
Put a Band-Aid on it.
There you go. Clean it up, put a Band-Aid on it. Were you all taught how to brush your teeth and keep your teeth clean? Okay. Oral health is directly related to your heart health. You wouldn't think so, but it is. That's why you need to floss and brush and gargle and all that lovely stuff. Let's see here. Anadina, if you broke your leg and your bone is just sticking out, what do you do about it?
Call somebody for help.
Okay, and ideally, where are you going to go? Hospital. Is anybody going to tell Anadina, it's all in your leg, shake it off? What?
I dislocated my knee once and my dad said like, oh, just limp.
Yeah, there are some exceptions. Now, I can't take credit for that silliness. That's from Dr. Winch. But that's the thing is, as we were growing up, we were taught all about how to take care of our physical health, and we failed to take care of our mental health, our psychological health. So we may become depressed, angst develops some anxiety, psychological issues. And here's where we talk about how boys and girls are raised differently. So you tell me, how are boys and girls raised differently? How are we socialized differently? Let me word it this way. What do we expect of boys and men? Go ahead.
Men are told to just suck it up, and it's not, boys can be boys.
Yes.
All that.
Boys are supposed to be tough. They're supposed to just, what do you say, take it?
Just walk it off.
Yeah, walk it off, shake it off, which also means don't ask for help, because this is not true, but the belief is, the mistaken belief is that if you ask for help, that shows weakness, and that's bullshit. Because what happens when you don't ask for help? It bottles up, and then you might lash out. All kinds of things. Y'all, this is why men have lower life expectancies. It's even the way that we socialize you. Because we expect so much of you to be the breadwinner, to be tough. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with teaching men and women to be tough and strong and resilient. But what's the problem is teaching someone to be tough without being able to ask for help. Okay? Everyone deserves help. It is not weak to ask for help. It is not weak to ask help from a therapist. In fact, it can be very beneficial. Having someone to talk to, whether it's a friend, family member, therapist. For those I describe therapy like this. Finding the right therapist is kind of like dating. You got to go through a few to find the right one. I can tell you that from experience. Therapy helps me a lot. I'm trying to be as open and honest with my students as possible. So therapy is something that really helps me. It's third party, neutral, helps me see things from a different perspective. It helps me with my self-care. blah, blah, blah. Okay? But anyway, when we tell men to not ask for help and they hold things in, that increases your risk of heart disease. And if we also tell men to not ask for help, that means if they are feeling ill, who are they not going to see? A doctor. Which means that if you do have this buildup of plaque or whatever in your arteries, something that could have very well been prevented, well, you end up croaking over and dying from a heart attack, stroke. That's why men die younger. And African American men have a lower life expectancy than white men because of the added stress in their life from with everyday racism, whether it's personal, institutional, so what have you. Okay. So, I mean, it's very interesting. The very way we socialize people can increase or decrease their life expectancy. One thing I want to add before I start the video, I forgot to address it, is spiritual. You might be like, what is that? Spiritual trauma, spiritual vicarious trauma, whatever. How many of you are religious and or spiritual at all? Anybody? A couple of you? Okay, fair enough. So here's what happens is when you see and learn about horrific things, it can test your faith. It can make you wonder, for those that believe in God, it makes you wonder, why would any God allow this? Some people question that. It doesn't happen to everybody. The example I gave just yesterday in victimology was my best friend who lost her stepson in a tragic freak accident this summer. He was 30 years old. He'd been in her life since he was 14. No, yeah. Sorry, 16. But still, I mean, that was her son. And when we talked, she said, I am so angry with God. And I said, honey, that's a normal response. She said, I don't want to be angry with him, but I am. She was like, why couldn't it be somebody else? Why couldn't it be somebody that deserved it? And she didn't even like to say that, but she felt guilty. And I'm like, yeah, why couldn't it have been a rapist? I don't know. That's spiritual trauma, where you start to question your faith. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody, whether you're religious or spiritual or not? Yeah? All right, so we're going to watch this video. The one that you'll watch on your own is on this one. This video right here. That one's about 17 minutes long. And you'll flip through these little things that I have for you. And your assignment is on Georgia V. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go make it visible for you before I forget. So it is there. So the slides that I'm showing you now are right here. The assignment is here. So if you are in victimology, it's the same assignment plus a fourth one. So you're welcome to turn in the same thing, but add the fourth one. Okay, it's no big deal. Do this Friday. If you need more time, just let me know. Ask for help. Again, it's self-care. I asked for it by then so that I can compile the responses this weekend. Okay. So a brief reflection over your takeaways from both videos, in addition to what's listed there. I know you can read, and your Dropbox is right there in that same folder. Let me push play.
Let's play a little game. We'll play a word association game. I'll say a word and you can picture something in your head. You can even shout it out loud. Are you ready? Cow. Okay, so most of you maybe were thinking this. Maybe a few of you were thinking more this. And maybe some of you thought this. We'll do another one. Work. Awesome, so some of you really love your work, like this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. And I wonder if anyone felt this. We'll do just one more. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So most of you thought this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. But I wonder if anyone thought this. Compassion fatigue is the post-traumatic stress disorder related symptoms that you receive vicariously as a secondary target to trauma. Compassion fatigue is experienced by those in a helping profession. Doctors, nurses, counselors, therapists, police officers, and maybe even you. If your unpaid role is that of a helping professional, then you may also be affected by compassion fatigue. If you are the middle of the night phone answerer or helping a friend through addiction or anxiety, if you are raising children or caring for parents or maybe both at the same time, if your unpaid role is that of a helping profession, compassion fatigue could be affecting you as well. Now, what puts you at a greater risk for compassion fatigue is empathy. Those generally in a helping profession have a very strong empathetic response system. And empathy is that ability to pick yourself up and put yourself in someone else's shoes and get it. Really get where they're coming from. The problem with empathy is you don't get to decide when to jump out. And those traumas that they experience begin to change you. I remember when I was the supervisor of a therapeutic group home, and I was sitting down with one of my clients. She began to tell me the horrific and painful stories of her past. And as she laid out in detail what she had experienced, my cell phone began to vibrate. And I wanted to show her that I was listening and I cared about every word she said, so I picked it up and I silenced it and I put it back down and I continued to listen. From that day forward, every single time I picked up my cell phone, swiped to silence it, I was transported back to her trauma. My brain had created a PTSD-related symptom that transported me back to her situation every single time for years. Now, this would be pretty normal if it happened that day after work at the grocery store, or maybe even a week or 2 weeks later. But where we get concerned that maybe this trauma is starting to change you is when it's sticking around for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and maybe even longer. Now, for many years, compassion fatigue was confused. People called everything burnout until Dr. Charles Figley came around in the late 80s and 90s and began to do research. We called it burnout. But the truth is there's a significant difference between burnout and compassion fatigue. Burnout has to do with being worn out, tired, and just flat out not liking your job anymore. Compassion fatigue has to do with being afraid. Compassion fatigue begins to change your hardwiring, change who you are. We see this a lot in child protective service workers. They start to become overly vigilant, believing that everyone is out to hurt them and their family. When I think of this, I can't help but think of the nurse who came after one of my classes and said, still to this day, she can see the broken bones of the young man who was abused by his parents. That still today, she knows the smell of death from a patient who laid in bed dying. These memories, they do not just go away, and they begin to change you. But we like to make excuses because we think we're superhuman. So we say things like, I'm fine. I'm a professional. I can deal with the stress. In fact, it doesn't even stress me out. My famous talk-off was, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know most people think it's stressful, but I'm okay.
Which one of you has been eating all the Cheeto?
What? It's a Cheetos thing.
is when stress and trauma start to affect you. Your brain and your body, they do not poll for your opinion. And they will start to show signs and symptoms because your body and your brain are shouting at you, I am not okay. I cannot handle the trauma. In little ways, whether you start to have sleep problems, either you're sleeping all the time or not able to sleep at all. Another way it manifests is becoming a workaholic. Now, I know plenty of you in this room think, Amy, there's nothing wrong with being a workaholic. Get off my toes. Let me tell you why it may be a problem. Because when we start to feel like we are losing control of the world around us, what we do is we roll up our sleeves and we work a little harder. And I can work hard enough to make this trauma go away. Another sign and symptom is feeling unappreciated and under-resourced, like what you have is not enough to get the job done. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. There's a very good chance you are indeed underappreciated. But when you started in this helping profession, or when you started helping your friend or your family member, did you know? Did you know you were going to be underappreciated, but you said, it's okay. I want to do this anyway. It's okay. I love you enough. But then somewhere along the way, that is no longer okay with me. It is no longer okay that I am not thanked and that I don't have what I need to succeed. What that tells me is your circumstances, they didn't change. You did. Maybe you changed because of life. Maybe you changed because of maturity. But maybe you changed because of compassion fatigue. And the last symptom I want to talk with you about today is called self-entitlement. And self-entitlement is a justification of negative maladaptive behaviors because of the positive things you do. The best way I can picture putting this is most of us went to school and got a degree or a certification to be professionals at what we do. But the truth is, I'll let you in on a secret, that's not enough because we're overachievers. So we require little invisible badges to really be professionals. Let me tell you what these invisible badges look like. For social workers, I know it looks like this. I stayed up all night long helping Joe Smith at the hospital. Now I'm a real social worker. For some healthcare professionals, I know it looks like this. I worked 2 shifts in a row. Now I'm a real healthcare professional. Where this turns into self-entitlement is when it looks like this. I stayed up all night helping Joe Smith at the hospital. That's why I'm a little cranky today and biting everyone's heads off. I worked 2 shifts in a row. In fact, I worked 60 hours this week, so I'm getting wasted all weekend. We begin to justify the negative behaviors because of the positive things that we do. Now that I have thoroughly depressed you, I want to give you some good news. That compassion fatigue can be identified, arrested, and treated at any time. That you can begin this journey for post-traumatic growth. That you can be better after trauma than you ever were before. And the best way I can think of putting this is when you think of an airplane, you know that the stewardess tells you where those exits are, and then they begin to tell you to please put your mask on you first before assisting other people. Now, every time I travel for vacation with my family, I show the stewardess that I'm listening. I get the cue card out of the backseat pocket and I give eye contact. I'm almost the only person on the plane listening. And I show if the plane went down, I could save the plane. I'm real intense about it. And yet it never fails. Every time they finish, they come over to me and they say, excuse me, if there were a change in cabin pressure, what would you do? And I'm a little offended. I don't know why they asked me that. But you see, that flight attendant, they see something you don't. They see the carry-ons that I travel with. They see this. They do see me, and they see this. You see, that flight attendant knows that no matter how much I listen to her, that I will put their masks on them first before caring for myself. But you see, she also knows that no matter how much of a supermom I believe I am, that I cannot live without oxygen. And yet every single day we do the same thing. I put your mask on you, and your mask on you, and your mask on you. And I don't care for myself. But you see, we can only give what we have. We give out of who we are. And if I don't care for myself, I certainly cannot care for you. So I'm going to ask you to complete a piece of homework for me. And I'm going to ask that you please do this every single day for the rest of your life. I have big expectations. I'm going to ask that you take 10. 10 minutes just for you. 10 minutes to put your mask on you first. 10 minutes to pray or meditate, to exercise or take a walk. But 10 minutes to care for you first. Take 10.
All right. So I'm going to do what I did yesterday in entomology. Self-care is not selfish. And you're going to repeat after me. Self-care.
It's not selfish.
There you go. Self-care is not selfish. Okay? You deserve to care for yourself. So I look forward to reading the ideas that you come up with for your own self-care techniques. And I look forward to reading the rest of your responses. The first part of the assignment will make more sense once you watch the emotional hygiene part. Okay? Because who is our number one enemy? Who is our number one critic? Yourself. Okay? We are hardest on ourselves. So if you have any questions over the assignment, just let me know. Other than that, you are dismissed. And if you have any more questions, I'll hang around a few moments if you need. Have a nice evening, be safe, and I will see y'all when I see y'all. Okay. Okay, great. I'll be right back. Let me do some puzzle this. And it just comes on sporadically. I had so many tests and procedures done, nothing, it was good news, nothing's wrong with me. The best that they could tell me is it was stress, and they said you have to learn how to manage your stress, and you gotta cope better. And by gosh, it worked. I have had a few of those episodes since. I've had 3 within the last year, which is a lot more, way less compared to what it used to be. So you think, Dr. Hunt, you're just a professor. You're not really, y'all, I'm not in the field, but I am constantly immersed in teaching you god-awful information. That is vicarious trauma, and I wasn't dealing with it. So for me, setting boundaries is very helpful. That's why I have my email hours. That's why, as much as I love true crime, I only watch true crime stuff during work hours or when I feel like I can handle it. Other than that, I watch comedy because that makes me feel better. You will all have your own unique self-care techniques. I have my own too, but part of your assignment is going to be coming up with a list of self-care techniques, whether it's stuff that you practice or not, just for any examples of self-care. I've already got a list, but what I'm doing is I'm going to make a new list. I've already added more stuff. And once I finish compiling that list from all 4 of my classes, I will come give you that compiled list. Your name's not going to be attached to any of it, so don't worry about that. So looking at drowning in empathy. So on that first slide, you saw compassion fatigue. anybody can be susceptible to compassion fatigue, but those who are more at risk are those who are empaths. Anybody want to tell me what an empath is?
The opposite of a sociopath.
You're right, they are the opposite of a psychopath, sociopath.
Someone that feels things.
Yes, someone who, so empathy means to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So an empath is one who has too much empathy and soaks up all of the negative, especially negative energy around people. And it's emotionally draining, and it is exhausting. Because, and this is, helping professions draw empaths. Okay? The idea is to have a nice healthy balance, not an empath nor a psychopath. But again, anybody is susceptible to compassion fatigue. So having too much compassion, you've got to find a boundary. You've got to find that fine line. Okay. So let's see. If you don't know what a psychopath is or sociopath, is someone who has no empathy, has no conscience, generally has no emotions, no feelings. Sometimes I kind of wonder what that's like. I don't want to be that permanently. I just want to wish what it would be, I just want to see what it would be like for one day. One day I feel like I have to have a damn break. If you can't figure it out, I'm definitely an empath. But with that said, I think I'm going to start the video. It's about 12 minutes, I think. The other video you'll watch on your own. Actually, I want to say one more thing before I start the video. The second video is on emotional hygiene by Dr. Guy Winch. He's a psychologist. So, when you were growing up, you were taught about how to take care of yourself physically. So, April, if you got a boo-boo on your knee, what were you taught to do about it?
Put a Band-Aid on it.
There you go. Clean it up, put a Band-Aid on it. Were you all taught how to brush your teeth and keep your teeth clean? Okay. Oral health is directly related to your heart health. You wouldn't think so, but it is. That's why you need to floss and brush and gargle, all that lovely stuff. Let's see here. Anadina, if you broke your leg and your bone is just sticking out, what do you do about it?
Call somebody for help.
Okay, and ideally, where are you going to go? Hospital. Is anybody going to tell Anadina, oh, it's all in your leg, shake it off? What?
I dislocated my knee once and my dad said like, oh, just limp.
Yeah, there are some exceptions. Now, I can't take credit for that silliness. That's from Dr. Winch. But that's the thing is, as we were growing up, we were taught all about how to take care of our physical health, and we failed to take care of our mental health, our psychological health. So we may become depressed, develop some anxiety, psychological issues. And here's where we talk about how boys and girls are raised differently. So you tell me, how are boys and girls raised differently? How are we socialized differently? Let me word it this way. What do we expect of boys and men? Go ahead.
Men are told to just suck it up, and it's not, and boys can be boys.
Yes.
All that.
Boys are supposed to be tough. They're supposed to just, what do you say, take it?
Just walk it off.
Yeah, walk it off, shake it off, which also means don't ask for help, because this is not true, but the belief is, the mistaken belief is that if you ask for help, that shows weakness, and that's bullshit. Because what happens when you don't ask for help? It bottles up, and then you might lash out. All kinds of things. Y'all, this is why men have lower life expectancies. It's even the way that we socialize you. Because we expect so much of you to be the breadwinner, to be tough. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with teaching men and women to be tough and strong and resilient. But what's the problem is teaching someone to be tough without being able to ask for help. Right? Everyone deserves help. It is not weak to ask for help. It is not weak to ask help from a therapist. In fact, it can be very beneficial. Having someone to talk to, whether it's a friend, family member, therapist. For those, I describe therapy like this. Finding the right therapist is kind of like dating. You got to go through a few to find the right one. I can tell you that from experience. Therapy helps me a lot. I'm trying to be as open and honest with my students as possible. So therapy is something that really helps me. It's third party, neutral, helps me see things from a different perspective. It helps me with my self-care, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But anyway, when we tell men to not ask for help and they hold things in, that increases your risk of heart disease. And if we also tell men to not ask for help, that means if they are feeling ill, who are they not going to see? A doctor. Which means that if you do have this buildup of plaque or whatever in your arteries, something that could have very well been prevented, well, you end up croaking over and dying from a heart attack, stroke. That's why men die younger. And African American men have a lower life expectancy than white men because of the added stress in their life from whether everyday racism, whether it's personal, institutional, so what have you. Okay. So, I mean, it's very interesting. The very way we socialize people can increase or decrease their life expectancy. One thing I want to add before I start the video, I forgot to address it, is spiritual. You might be like, what is that? Spiritual trauma, spiritual vicarious trauma, whatever. How many of you are religious and or spiritual at all? Anybody? A couple of you? Okay, fair enough. So here's what happens is when you see and learn about horrific things, it can test your faith. It can make you wonder, for those that believe in God, it makes you wonder, why would any God allow this? Some people question that. It doesn't happen to everybody. The example I gave just yesterday in victimology was my best friend who lost her stepson in a tragic freak accident this summer. He was 30 years old. He'd been in her life since he was 16. But still, I mean, that was her son. And when we talked, she said, I am so angry with God. And I said, honey, that's a normal response. She said, I don't want to be angry with him, but I am. She was like, why couldn't it be somebody else? Why couldn't it be somebody that deserved it? And she didn't even like to say that, but she felt guilty. And I'm like, yeah, why couldn't it have been a rapist? I don't know. That's spiritual trauma, where you start to question your faith. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody, whether you're religious or spiritual or not? Yeah? All right, so we're going to watch this video. The one that you'll watch on your own is on this one. This video right here. That one's about 17 minutes long. And you'll flip through these little things that I have for you. And your assignment is on Georgia B. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go make it visible for you before I forget. So it is there. So the slides that I'm showing you now are right here. The assignment is here. So if you are in victimology, it's the same assignment plus a fourth one. So you're welcome to turn in the same thing, but add the fourth one. Okay, it's no big deal. Do this Friday. If you need more time, just let me know. Ask for help. Again, self-care. I asked for it by then so that I can compile the responses this weekend. Okay. So a brief reflection over your takeaways from both videos, in addition to what's listed there. I know you can read, and your Dropbox is right there in that same folder. Let me push play.
let's play a little game. We'll play a word association game. I'll say a word and you can picture something in your head. You can even shout it out loud. Are you ready? Cow. Okay, so most of you maybe were thinking this. Maybe a few of you were thinking more this. And maybe some of you thought this. We'll do another one, work. Awesome, so some of you really love your work, like this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. And I wonder if anyone felt this. We'll do just one more. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So most of you thought this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. But I wonder if anyone thought this. Compassion fatigue is the post-traumatic stress disorder related symptoms that you receive vicariously as a secondary target to trauma. Compassion fatigue is experienced by those in a helping profession. Doctors, nurses, counselors, therapists, police officers, and maybe even you. If your unpaid role is that of a helping professional, then you may also be affected by compassion fatigue. If you are the middle of the night phone answerer or helping a friend through addiction or anxiety, if you are raising children or caring for parents or maybe both at the same time, if your unpaid role is that of a helping profession, compassion fatigue could be affecting you as well. Now, what puts you at a greater risk for compassion fatigue is empathy. Those generally in a helping profession have a very strong empathetic response system. And empathy is that ability to pick yourself up and put yourself in someone else's shoes and get it. Really get where they're coming from. The problem with empathy is you don't get to decide when to jump out. And those traumas that they experience begin to change you. I remember when I was a supervisor of a therapeutic group home, and I was sitting down with one of my clients. She began to tell me the horrific and painful stories of her past. And as she laid out in detail what she had experienced, my cell phone began to vibrate. And I wanted to show her that I was listening and I cared about every word she said, so I picked it up and I silenced it and I put it back down and I continued to listen. From that day forward, every single time I picked up my cell phone, swiped to silence it, I was transported back to her trauma. My brain had created a PTSD-related symptom that transported me back to her situation every single time for years. Now, this would be pretty normal if it happened that day after work at the grocery store, or maybe even a week or 2 weeks later. But where we get concerned that maybe this trauma is starting to change you is when it's sticking around for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and maybe even longer. Now, for many years, compassion fatigue was confused. People called everything burnout. Until Dr. Charles Figley came around in the late 80s and 90s and began to do research, we called it burnout. But the truth is there's a significant difference between burnout and compassion fatigue. Burnout has to do with being worn out, tired, and just flat out not liking your job anymore. Compassion fatigue has to do with being afraid. Compassion fatigue begins to change your hardwiring, change who you are. We see this a lot in child protective service workers. They start to become overly vigilant, believing that everyone is out to hurt them and their family. When I think of this, I can't help but think of the nurse who came after one of my classes and said, still to this day, she can see the broken bones of the young man who was abused by his parents. That still today, she knows the smell of death from a patient who laid in bed dying. These memories, they do not just go away, and they begin to change you. But we like to make excuses because we think we're superhuman. So we say things like, I'm fine. I'm a professional. I can deal with the stress. In fact, it doesn't even stress me out. My famous talk-off was, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know most people think it's stressful, but I'm okay.
Which one of you has been eating all the Cheeto? What?
It's a Cheetos thing.
The problem with that is when stress and trauma start to affect you, your brain and your body, they do not poll for your opinion. And they will start to show signs and symptoms because your body and your brain are shouting at you, I am not okay. I cannot handle the trauma. In little ways, whether you start to have sleep problems, either you're sleeping all the time or not able to sleep at all. Another way it manifests is becoming a workaholic. Now, I know plenty of you in this room think, Amy, there's nothing wrong with being a workaholic. Get off my toes. Let me tell you why it may be a problem. Because when we start to feel like we are losing control of the world around us, what we do is we roll up our sleeves and we work a little harder. And I can work hard enough to make this trauma go away. Another sign and symptom is feeling unappreciated and under-resourced, like what you have is not enough to get the job done. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. There's a very good chance you are indeed underappreciated. But when you started in this helping profession, or when you started helping your friend or your family member, did you know? Did you know you were going to be underappreciated, but you said, it's okay. I want to do this anyway. It's okay. I love you enough. But then somewhere along the way, that is no longer okay with me. It is no longer okay that I am not thanked and that I don't have what I need to succeed. What that tells me is your circumstances, they didn't change. You did. Maybe you changed because of life. Maybe you changed because of maturity. But maybe you changed because of compassion fatigue. And the last symptom I want to talk with you about today is called self-entitlement. And self-entitlement is a justification of negative maladaptive behaviors because of the positive things you do. The best way I can picture putting this is most of us went to school and got a degree or a certification to be professionals at what we do. But the truth is, I'll let you in on a secret, that's not enough. Because we're overachievers. So we require little invisible badges to really be professionals. Let me tell you what these invisible badges look like. For social workers, I know it looks like this. I stayed up all night long helping Joe Smith at the hospital. Now I'm a real social worker. For some healthcare professionals, I know it looks like this. I worked 2 shifts in a row. Now I'm a real healthcare professional. Where this turns into self-entitlement is when it looks like this. I stayed up all night helping Joe Smith at the hospital. That's why I'm a little cranky today and biting everyone's heads off. I worked 2 shifts in a row. In fact, I worked 60 hours this week. So I'm getting wasted all weekend. We begin to justify the negative behaviors because of the positive things that we do. Now that I have thoroughly depressed you, I want to give you some good news. That compassion fatigue can be identified, arrested, and treated at any time. That you can begin this journey for post-traumatic growth. That you can be better after trauma than you ever were before. And the best way I can think of putting this is when you think of an airplane, you know that the stewardess tells you where those exits are, and then they begin to tell you to please put your mask on you first before assisting other people. Now, Now, every time I travel for vacation with my family, I show the stewardess that I'm listening. I get the cue card out of the back seat pocket and I give eye contact. I'm almost the only person on the plane listening. And I show if the plane went down, I could save the plane. I'm real intense about it. And yet it never fails. Every time they finish, they come over to me and they say, "Excuse me, if there were a change in cabin pressure, what would you do?" And I'm a little offended. I don't know why they asked me that. But you see, that flight attendant, they see something you don't. They see the carry-ons that I travel with. They see this. They do see me, and they see this. You see, that flight attendant knows that no matter how much I listen to her, that I will put their masks on them first before caring for myself. But you see, she also knows that no matter how much of a supermom I believe I am, that I cannot live without oxygen. And yet every single day we do the same thing. I put your mask on you, and your mask on you, and your mask on you. And I don't care for myself. But you see, we can only give what we have. We give out of who we are. And if I don't care for myself, I certainly cannot care for you. So I'm going to ask you to complete a piece of homework for me. And I'm going to ask that you please do this every single day for the rest of your life. I have big expectations. I'm going to ask that you take 10. 10 minutes just for you. 10 minutes to put your mask on you first. 10 minutes to pray or meditate, to exercise or take a walk. But 10 minutes to care for you first. Take 10.
All right. So I'm going to do what I did yesterday in etymology. Self-care is not selfish. And you're going to repeat after me. Self-care.
It's not selfish.
There you go. Self-care is not selfish. Okay? You deserve to care for yourself. So I look forward to reading ideas that you come up with for your own self-care techniques. And I look forward to reading the rest of your responses. The first part of the assignment will make more sense once you watch the emotional hygiene part. Okay? Because who is our number one enemy? Who is our number one critic? Yourself. Okay? We are hardest on ourselves. So if you have any questions over the assignment, just let me know. Other than that, you are dismissed. And if you have any more questions, I'll hang around a few moments if you need. Have a nice evening. Be safe. And I will see y'all when I see y'all.